Guys, what's up? It's Greg. I'm back. It's been a couple days since I've done anything here. Trip to Florida was good. Got my boys set up. Mission accomplished. Getting back into my routine. Getting to bed on time. Waking up when I like to. Getting the pup to the park. Just got back from the gym a little while ago, so feels good to be back in my little groove. So the video's in Florida and on the way down there. Part of it was just I need to start somewhere. This is still kind of a starting point too. But the bigger issue is it's not about what I'm doing and where I'm going and look how much fun Greg is having. It's about me being an example. So if you're alone right now, if you're depressed, if you're not sleeping, if the nightmares are kicking in, if you're boozing, using, whatever your situation is, I know sometimes you can get to that point where you feel like there's no point. There's nothing to look forward to. And like I said before, I've been there. Wherever you are right now, you're not the only one. I know it feels that way sometimes. You're not the only one. And all I'm doing right now is trying to show you that I've been where you are, and I didn't believe I could get out of it. I didn't think there was another life for me. I thought I was done. And here I am. So I've done talks at rehabs, detox centers. I've taken meetings in front of groups of firefighters at PTSD rehab centers. And I always say the same thing. You may not get anything out of this. Maybe my story doesn't interest you. Maybe you don't relate to anything I have to say. Maybe you don't like me. But what you can do is you can add me to the list of hundreds and thousands of people that have been where you are and have gotten themselves together through a program, and they have a whole new life, and they're happy and they're healthy. And so now all I can do is try to pass that gift on. Sobriety is a gift, and I'm grateful for it, and I have to protect it. And part of that gift, though, is I get to help other people, and I get to share it. Otherwise, what's the point? So that's what all those videos are about so far. Okay? I'm just trying to be an example and show you that there is hope. Don't ever lose hope. It's the most important aspect of this whole thing. So today's video, something I've been thinking about since we're just starting out here is how do you even know if you are an alcoholic? I knew that was kind of like a confusing thing for me at the end of my drinking and at the beginning of my recovery. And to tell you the truth, right now, 3.5 years or so into sobriety, I'm not really sure. I guess you can Google something, or maybe there's some books out there that will give you some textbook definitions of alcoholism. I'm sure American Medical Association will have some statistics and some criteria and things like that. But what I will tell you is it doesn't matter. I don't really care whether I'm an alcoholic or not. I can break things down into two simple categories. Number one, is what I'm doing benefiting me? Is it adding to my life experience? Is it making things better? Does it work? Is it good? Category number two is just the opposite. Is what I'm doing detrimental to my life experience? Is it hurting me? Is it making my life worse? If you can go out and have a couple drinks, you can sit at home, have a beer, you can wake up the next day and get on with your life, good for you, man. Congratulations. Have one for me. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. I'll say that every single time. But if you're like me, when the bar closed down and everybody else went home and they went to bed and got up the next day and got on with their life, I was standing there looking around going, where's the next party? People walked out of a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning and they went home. I walked out of the bar and I wound up at an airport flying to Texas or California or who knows where. I couldn't stop, and I didn't want it to stop because if I stopped drinking and I stopped partying, then I was going to be stuck with this guy. And I couldn't stand that thought. So I didn't want the party to end. So, if that sounds familiar, that's an easy one. If you're asking other people, I asked one of my good friends in the fire department one day. I remember I called him or sent him a text and said, hey man, do you think I'm an alcoholic? Or how do you know if you're an alcoholic? And he said, nah, Greg, you're just a high volume drinker. You're a big guy, you're a firefighter, that's what we do. You like to party. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but in retrospect, that was probably one of the first red flags that popped up. If you have to ask somebody, do you think I'm an alcoholic, or how do you know if you have a problem? That may be an indicator right there. I've had a lot of people call me, contact me, and that's one of the first things they ask is, well, A, Greg, how did you do it? I think, well, what do you mean, how did I do? And then I get the, okay, I know where this is going. And the next thing they say is, well, how do I know if I'm an alcoholic or an addict? So some of the things you can think about are you avoiding places because of your drinking? I wouldn't go to one of my nieces, like a sporting event at a high school in the past, because I knew I was going to be stuck in that auditorium or that school gymnasium for an entire day, and I wouldn't be able to get anything to drink. Certain family members, I had it all figured out. Certain family members don't have a stocked bar. Other family members, they got a fat bar, and I would love going to those places for dinner or whatever the event was. So are you avoiding places because you're not going to be able to drink, or they don't drink at all? Maybe you're avoiding places because you made an ass out of yourself the last time you were there. So have you burned bridges? And so somebody's, your friends or a group in your family is going out to a certain place, and the last time you were there didn't go so great. You put on a bit of a show. That could be an indicator. Are you going places because of the drinking? Like I said, I would go to certain parties at certain family members' houses because I knew maybe they didn't drink like I did. Not too many people did, but I knew they would have a nice fat stacked bar. So I look forward to those places. Football games. We had season tickets for a long time, and looking back, I had zero interest in the football game. Half the time I didn't even wind up in my seat. I was either running around the bars downtown before I got into the stadium, or I was just there to drink with everybody else. It was a great excuse. I could hide. 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, I could get hammered, and nobody thought anything of it because there were 50,000 other people doing the exact same thing. So, are you going places? Casinos. I would go to the casino. I don't like to gamble. It's never been my thing. It's not my thing. But when you do sit down at a table for long enough, the drinks start coming, and there's always a bar. So, are you going places because there's drinks available? So those are two big indicators. Is alcohol influencing your life? You're going places and not going places because of booze. Do you need it to get to sleep? Do you need it to wake up? It got to the point for me, and so many people, I couldn't even begin to count, have said the same thing. At some point you begin drinking just because you've been drinking. At the end of my boozing, I wasn't getting drunk or buzzed. The party was over a long time ago, but I had to drink just because I had been drinking for so long before. I couldn't stop. I would get physically ill. So that's another thing. Hangovers. Everybody gets hangovers. You're part. No, you really shouldn't. You're getting into excess at that point. You've crossed a line at that point. Obviously, DWIs, 1, 2, 7, You've been locked up. If you're like me, you've been in the emergency room with IV bags hanging out of your arms on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, maybe in the middle of the week. How many times I went to the emergency room and told the ER doc I had the flu or food poisoning. I'm pretty sure they knew. Everybody knows. You're not fooling anybody. But so if you're in those scenarios, that's obvious. Okay, there's an issue. So if it's dictating where you go and where you don't go, if you can't go without it, if you need it to get to sleep, if you need it when you get home from work just to decompress, that's an issue. Bottom line is you can't go without it. So then you need to start asking yourself, why am I doing this? And that's a huge component of addiction, is what is going on with me that I need this? A healthy, happy person does not get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and start drinking Jamesons. A healthy, happy, well-rounded individual does not go to a motel on the weekends and smoke crack. That was not my thing, by the way. But the stories I've heard are pretty fucking incredible. So that's the bottom line. These are things that seem obvious to me now, but when I was in the throes of my drinking, I just couldn't see my way out of it. And that's why I'm here. I'm going to end with this. I heard a guy today talking about someone he met whose son had been killed in an automobile accident. 20-year-old kid, I think he said he was. And the father was absolutely devastated. I can only imagine the pain that this father was feeling, and he was absolutely inconsolable. He had gone to a priest, and that didn't help. He said he went to therapy, and that didn't help. He had talked to family and friends, and that didn't help. And so this guy said, well, at what point did you find any sort of help? And he said, I found help when I found a group of people who had been in the same situation I was in. He found a group of adults, parents, who had lost their children to an automobile accidents or other form, but they had lost their kids. And he said, that's where I found my help. And that really hit home with me, because that's the same thing with this whole recovery deal. You will find that when you open up and you're ready and you surround yourself with other people who have been where you are, amazing things will happen. One of the first things I realized when I got to rehab was, it's not just me. For the longest time, I thought I was the only one on the face of the planet, and nobody else could understand what I was going through. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. Whoever you are, wherever you are out there, you're not alone. You're not the only one. I get you, and there are thousands and thousands of other people that get you too. There's help. So, I'm the Sober Beast. If you're in a minefield and you're stuck and you don't know how to get out, follow me. We'll get you there.